All right. Take two. Now with sound because I got about 5 minutes into recording the first time and there was no sound. We love technical issues. Anyway, this is going to be, as I was saying the first time, this is going to be a basic video because I'm a basic person. But want to do a quarterly reading wrap up for quarter one. Because I figure that would give a little bit more content than just um a monthly wrap up because I'm trying to do an average of not being overly reading, but also not being like reading like a book a month. But I figure I could do it quarterly. This is kind of sort of a secondary face reveal because it's in video format and not text format because I feel like I would have a better um play. It would be better for me if I did it as a video. I could get what I want to say out better because I don't have to try to like I can ramble. I can ramble easier easier in video than I can in text. There. That's what I was trying to say. Anyway, enough rambling. I'm done enough rambling. Let's move on to my steps. There we go. Here they are. All right. So, in the first quarter of 2025. In the first quarter of 2025, I read 25 books. Hey. I do not anticipate that I am going to keep that pace, but we shall see. And this is the Book Riot reading tracker, by the way. Actually, let me pull. No, I got everything I need here. I have read so out of those 25 books, I have read a total of 4,320 pages and listened to 49 hours, 4 minutes and 2 seconds of audio. And I DNF 0 because I don't like DNFing. I had an average of 7 days a book, so I was averaging about one book a week. An average of about 43 pages a day and an average audio playtime of 20 minutes a day, and average 9 books a month. It's actually eight and a third. Of those, 7 of those books were in print. 11 of those books were ebooks, and 7 were audio. 17 of them were fiction, 8 were nonfiction. I love stats. Most of them were geared toward adults, but I had one children's book and one YA. And then some other 28 books were from the US, 2 were from the UK, and 3 were from Japan. Which means 3 of them were translated from Japanese to English. 6 of them were in January, 9 of them were in February, and 10 of them were in March. I had in that time frame, I had 1 2-star book, 10 3-star books, 8 4-star books, and 6 5-star books. And yeah, okay. Move on to the charts. The charts are more fun, in my opinion. 68% were fiction and 32% were nonfiction. I had 28% audio, 28% print, 44% digital. I like digital. I like ebooks. You'll see 92% were adult, and then 4% each were 4% YA, 4% children. Almost half of them were prose. 48% were prose. 20% were essay collections, which were my nonfiction. Which were the essay collections? When we go back to the actual log, 16% of them were comics and 16% were novellas. Surprising to me, romance was my most common genre. 40% romance, followed by a tie for 12% general fiction, which is where I was put in the literary fiction. And 12% technology, which I think were both. Those were all nonfiction. um, yeah, those were because if they were fiction, I would put them under sci-fi. 8% fantasy, and then the remainder 4% to crime, 4% travel/food, 4% memoir and or biography. Oh, I did have 8% general nonfiction, which is where I put all the nonfiction, and I didn't know what else to put. 4% classics and 4% mystery. Oh yeah. Of my I had I think that 96% of my books were published prior to 2025, and I think in quarter one I had one published in 2020. Yeah, one published in 2025. I've read two more since. Um, why is this so much smaller than the rest of them? Let's fix that. There we go. I must have resized that at some point. So, of the books that I listened, 21%, almost 22% of them were just books I already owned that were like that I just needed to read. Um 18.8% were purchased in 2025 or borrowed, which is where I put mainly my Kindle Unlimited stuff. I think I put my Kindle Unlimited and now my Everand because basically I only own them as long as I pay. I only own them for I can listen, can read them or listen to them as long as I have the subscription. So I'm like, that's gonna count as, that's gonna be book. I'm gonna list that as book. I'm technically booking it. Um, then next think I had like one or two books that were given. Yes, I had like two books that were given to me as gifts. Um, and then now I do think there is a little bit of overlap because like they'll put like it says book source library and then these are all my audiobook sources. 9.4% of my audiobooks were from Spotify, 6.3 from Audible. One was an actual CD. Yes, yeah, an actual audiobook CD. I could have another one that I just checked out from the library. So that overlaps with library, and then one from LibriVox, which LibriVox, great. Free audiobooks of classics that you could just download and listen to. Highly recommend LibriVox if you like classics. Oh, there we go. Yeah. And then a better graph of my different audiobooks is of all the audiobooks I listen to, because this graph is counting the audiobooks I listen to on Spotify as a subset of including all of my books that were not audio. Um, this is just a breakdown of the audiobooks. 42%, 43% of my audiobooks in quarter one were from Spotify. 28.6 were from Audible, and then one was an audio CD and one was LibriVox. And then we get into like the demographics. Like, did the book have trans rep? Did the book have LGBT rep? Did the book have disability rep? Yeah, one more graph I don't want to get to before I get into the actual books. 50% of my books that I purchased were from Amazon. 20% were from indie bookstore, but I think I'm counting like, does this count? That I just realized this is probably including the books I read. Purchased today because I didn't take that part. 'Cause I copied this from my overall reading log. I like just copied the spreadsheet in Google Drive and took out the 3 books I've read this month. Yes, but there's only one. There's only one that I so there are all the books I've spent. I have purchased 10 books and read 6 of them. I will read the other ones eventually. But I am taking a break from reading from purchasing not from reading not from reading from purchasing books for now. Also, I love that I count in a Dollar Tree as a used bookstore because everything that they're selling is technically overstocked. So I'm like, I'm gonna count that. Um. Anyway, here's the actual log. Now, every book I read in January, I did post a review for, but I kind of stopped. You know, I just kind of stopped doing that in February. I only like reviewed books if I had like something substantial to say. So January was my worst month. I was very fortunate that I started off so strong because in the first like half of January, I read one, two, three. That's where I read my 6 books. Um, and then I got sick. I got I have never been I think it's the sickest I've ever been since maybe I would had like strep throat as a kid. I was sick for like a month. So I kind of stopped reading after January 11th. Did I have any of those 5 stars? Should have checked this before I. There was one. Yes, yes, yes. Was Detective Pikachu episode 0, which takes place it is a little tiny book, 25 pages. Um takes place, I believe it is set in the the game universe for Detective Pikachu, not the movie. And it takes place before the start of the movie. Think if for anyone who's played, it takes place like after the dad disappears, but before the son meets Detective Pikachu. Yes, something like that. And then in February, I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Wait, is that right? No, that is not. That is not. It is right. 9. No, no. Wait, what? 2, 3. What? What? 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, yeah, that's I think I had. You know what? Here's what's gonna be better. Here's what's gonna be. I'm gonna go to Goodreads to determine 5-star reads. Also, need to add another book to my Red 2025. Red. There we go. So in February, did I have any 5 stars? I did. This one. How to Defeat a Demon King in 10 Easy Steps. Oh my gosh. It is. This book is a lit RPG that basically takes place in the world of Legend of Zelda. And I will not say, I don't want to say any much more about it other than if you have any knowledge of Legend of Zelda, you will love this book. Like, I recommended this to my cousin, and Legend of Zelda is like his favorite game of all time. So I'm like, dude, you got to read this book. I'm not going to give you any context as to why you should read this book, but trust me, you'll love it. I don't know if he's purchased the book yet because he's in the middle of moving into a house he just bought. But yeah, if you have any knowledge of Legend of Zelda, read that book. I also in February 5-starred Even Though We're Adults Volume 1 by Takako Shimura, which is this one right here. It's a manga, and it is about, in essence, a school teacher who is married and is coming to terms with the fact that she is a lesbian. Yeah. And now I need to pick up so there's maybe starting in May, I'll pick up the rest for that thing because I read the first 3 volumes all in February. Only 5-starred the first one though. Is that it for? Oh no, I had a lot of most of my 5-star reads were in February because I also 5-starred Spoils of War by Hannah Walker, which is MLM romantasy. And Rocket Science by KM Newhold, which is also MLM romance. I like MLM romance. And that's it for February. Um, Now we move into March. March was my best month so far. I read 10 books and I had one one five I only had one 5-star read, which was um the Backstreet Boys 30th anniversary celebration book by Carly Hancock and Amelia Filogamo, who are the webmasters of like the biggest Backstreet fan site on the planet, on the internet. And I didn't even know that this book existed. Thank you, Reed Harder, for essentially introducing me to this book because this was for the Book Riot Reed Harder Task 7, which is um, read a book about a piece of media that you love. And so I was Googling for anything. I initially wanted to do something that was like um for Genshin Impact or Honkai Star Rail because those are the two things that I'm like most into right now. But I couldn't find anything that did not feel like that wasn't a completely vastly outdated how to play the game and how to build characters book um that like that was like written like 3 nations ago. Uh, three patch cycles ago, like three, yeah. Um, or were the official were I could have I was considering the official um like Genshin Impact like concept art book, but then I found this because if it wasn't the official Genshin Impact book, like concept art book, I was also considering the Genshin Impact manga, but it was considered invalid because it's available on Webtoon and the it would have had to have been like printed like in physical form. So I didn't go with that. I still want to read that manga though. Maybe someday. Um, and I found this on Amazon, and I'm like, what the fuck? This book is 2 years old, and I don't know it exists. How do I not know it exists? So I went with that, and yeah, it was my only 5-star read in March. Yeah, yeah. March was also the month where I read my longest book, which was a whopping 1,472 pages. The CompTIA A Plus Certification All-in-One Exam Guide, the 11th edition. It's a textbook. It's a fucking textbook. Let's be real. It's a textbook. And I literally read that thing cover to cover. Hold on. Do, 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 do. Look at this behemoth. It's a textbook. And I read it cover to cover. And I annotated. The only part I didn't annotate was the index at the back. Oh, this motherfucker. This motherfucker of a book. Pardon my language. I dropped Square's Castle. This behemoth of a book. Um, so yeah. That is basically, hold on a minute. I should have thought of this before. There we go. Before I switch back over to the Chrome tab, but I will. Now, let don't just read books. Uh, sidetracked. Sidetracked. I also read fan fiction. I read I've actually started reading quite a bit of fan fiction, especially because you can download fan fiction as an ebook on Archive of Our Own. And, yeah. Uh, and I just do that, and I download it to my e-reader, and I just read it like an ebook. It's a great time. which is why 13 of so getting back to very very similar stats, but not but different because fanfic is organized a little bit differently than actual books. But I have of my fanfic I read, 13 of them were digital. So ebooks I downloaded from Archive of Our Own. 11 of them were podfics, which are the fan fiction for the fan fiction equivalent of audiobooks. That's literally what they are. Just amateur audiobooks for amateur stories. And my newest obsession, which I will be posting an entire video on eventually, once I get better at it. Maybe once I have a few months. I actually read one that I personally like printed out and bound as a book, as a physical book. And I have like 7 more of those that I've done. Um I finished one of them in January, 9 in February, and 15 in March. It is way easier to read a lot of fanfic in a month than it is to read a lot of books in a month because you can get fanfic that is as little as like 500 words. Um, my most my most read fandom is Hunger Star Rail, followed by Genshin Impact, then Skate the Infinity, and Pokemon. Um, those were mostly MLM. I have one that was FLF and 2 that had no pairing. My most common pairing was Venturine Dr. Issue from Honker Star Rail, which is followed by Reki and Longa from Skate the Infinity, Tyann Diluc from Genshin Impact, Sino and Tighnari from Genshin Impact, uh, Joe and Cherry from Skate the Infinity, 2 with no pairing listed, and then the remainder of 1 each, Ron and Black Swan from Honkai Star Rail, Leon and Raihan from Pokemon, Kenichi and Auroron from Genshin Impact, and Linny and Risley from Genshin Impact. Hey, I like Genshin Impact and Honkai Star Rail, what can I say? Um, Charts. Because I made charts. Yeah, this is not as clean as the other one because I made it myself and I was not feeling up to formatting it fancy because I'm pulling the information from like uh, 3 other charts. Oh, actually, before I get into the charts, so I read a total of 1,000. So here's the thing about fanfic. Here's the thing about fanfic is that it is instead of being organized instead of organizing it by page count, you organize it by word count since traditionally you're reading it on a web page on your computer or on your phone. You're not, you know. Yes, there are entire subsets of fandom that turn these fanfics into other forms, which I'm in 2 of them, the fic binding community. Which by the way, if you get into fic binding, learn how to do it yourself and do it yourself. Please do not pay to have a fanfic bound. That is a huge issue in the fanfic community, the fic binding community. Um, Mainly in the Harry Potter subsection of it. A lot of people will like go we'll set up shops on Etsy or eBay and charge people to bind fanfic for them and send it to them. It's not, no, please, no. Anyway. Okay. So anyway, using the so in the first quarter of 2025, I read a total of 178,519 words. That is um 136,121 of the ebooks, and then the word count of the podfics I listened to added up to 42,398 words. That is an average page that is about 650 pages, which averages out to just under like 1.85 books. So this is I'm these calculations are based on an average word count per book page of 275 and an average book length of 350 pages. Obviously from the other reading law, some books are as short as 25 pages yeah, my shortest like published book I read was 25 and my longest was 1,472, and the fanfic that I'm reading right now that I hand bound, again, I'll show it off when I do my fanfic binding video. I think averaged to like, wait, let me see. What was the total page count? Granted, that's based on a page size of 5.5 by 8, because I didn't want to trim the pages any more than I had to. So it's not the average. It's not. It's a little bit bigger than an average paperback, like physically bigger. That's not counting the chapter notes. I stuck those at the end. Yeah, this is 280. The fanfic I'm reading right now, that again, that I hand bound into a physical copy, is 282 pages. Um, I have others. Actually, I'm curious now. I have two that I need to, I still have two more that I need to print out, but I gotta wait because I'm not gonna, because it takes up a lot of ink to print out these books if I do them myself. So I'm gonna take these next two that are big and take them to Staple, which are I'm going to fix some of this stuff before I rebind it. Excellent. Yeah, I have one that is 214 pages. Where are the notes? I don't know. I'll look into that. Yeah, and then yeah, I have another that's I'm ramble. I told you I was gonna ramble. 200 and yeah, 287. So about the same as the one that I'm reading right now. Yeah, about the same. And about the same, that's about the same number of pages as the last two paperbacks I read, which were Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. I should write a review for that one, like a full-on review. Um, Glad I finally read that book. And I got abducted by aliens and now I'm trapped in a rom-com by Kimberly Lemming, and those were they're basically yeah, that's basically the same word page, the same page count as those two books, and somebody wrote that for free, absolutely free. And I also have another one which is a little bit shorter. Oh, did I go with that? I did go with that types. I have two different typesets I use for my bindings. Oh, it's only 86 pages. That one's only 86 pages, but that's not that. Okay. Yeah. So I don't think I have. I do not think that I have. I did not rate any of the fanfics that I should have. But I do notate if I would reread some of them. And of the ones that I said I would reread, I have Faded Memories, which is Sino and Tenari Genshin Impact. Um, Entwined by the Holden, which I think was that which one was that? Oh, that was Matcha Blossom. Okay, that was Matcha Blossom. Joe and Cherry from Escape the Infinity. We Remain Children, which I think that's the okay, yeah. That's the one that's N and the player character from Pokemon Black, my favorite Pokemon game. Not Another Song by Avril Lavigne by Alpha Hydra. Um, which was that was Reki Longa. That was Reki Longa from Escape the Infinity. And To Craft a Wishing Star by Twilight Eve, which was Aventurine and Dr. Asia from Manga Zero. The first book that was actually the first one I handbound. That was my first hand bind. Um, and right now I am reading the fanfics. This because it's one of my longer ones. I am reading Yours If You Wanted by Nina Mem, which is Sam and the female player from Stardew Valley. I love Stardew Valley. Now I'm like, oh my gosh, I've talked a lot. Wow. Okay, I talked a lot. So yeah, that is my very, very basic quarter one reading review. Or yeah, quarter one reading wrap. Um so far for quarter two, as I stated, I've finished three books. Three books. That I'll probably again I'll get into. Well, I may not get into the and I don't think any of them. I don't think I've had a five. I haven't had 5 star. Never Let Me Go. Yes. Um. So yeah. So far in April. So for quarter two, we're in quarter two. I read Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. Been meaning to read that book for like 10 years, like 15 years, 15 years, 15 years. Because I've been wanting to read that book since I watched the movie. Though I will recommend don't do it that way because I knew exactly I already knew it was going to happen because I watched the movie. So the emotional impact, I kind of like the emotional impact of that story was ruined for me because I already knew it was coming. So that's just my mini review. That I got abducted by aliens. Now I'm trapped in a rom com by Kimberly Lemming, and then I've just today finished the audiobook of We Lived on the Horizon by Erica Swyler, which I saw that in Barnes and Noble the other day. I'm like, hey, I'm reading that one. So, I'm probably gonna have reviews for at least Never Let Me Go up soon, like a written review. I am also currently reading, as far as books go, The Verifiers by Jane Peck, which is a murder mystery that for that library had available way sooner than I anticipated, and Same-Sex Unions in Pre-Modern Europe by John Boswell. These are both challenge books. Verifiers is for read harder. I didn't go into read harder. I didn't go into my read harder books. Hold on, I'm not done yet. Let me back up. So in quarter one for read harder, I read one, two, three. I read 6 out of the 25 tasks. The ones I read in January, so remembering them in the order that I read them. Gifted by Savannah Cade for read a romance book that does not have an illustrated cover. And All Your Base Are Belong to Us, How 50 Years of Video Games Conquered Pop Culture by Harold Goldberg for read a book about little known history. In February, I read How to Defeat a Demon King in 10 Easy Steps by Andrew Rowe, and Mortal Kombat: Why the War on Violent Video Games is Wrong by Patrick Markey. But that was How to Defeat a Demon King in 10 Easy Steps was for read a standalone fantasy book. And Mortal Kombat: Why the War on Violent Video Games is Wrong was read for read a book about a moral panic, obviously. And then in March, I read The System by Peter Cooper and Backstreet Boys 30th Anniversary Celebration by Carly Hancock. The System was for read a wordless comic. And yes, I mean there's like I kind of went a little loose with wordless comic and basically did it as what's it call it? Say as no dialogue because there are like like newspapers with headlines and you'll see like TV reports with like ticker signs. So but there's no dialogue. There's zero dialogue. And then obviously, as I mentioned previously, Backstreet Boys 30th Anniversary Celebration was for read a book about a piece of media you love, a TV show, movie, band, etc. I did not pull up the. You could not see my Chrome window that entire time. Ugh. Oh well, it's fine. I'm 45 minutes into recording this video. I'm done. It's fine. Whatever. Um, and then I have read 2 more books for Read Harder, which means next month I only have to read 1 book for Read Harder because this month I'm reading 3 just because my library books came. My library holds came sooner. All my library holds came sooner than I expected, and they were all Read Harder books. Um, Again, I'll remind us again in 3 months when I do my quarter 2 wrap up in July. Um, um, uh, I Got Abducted by Aliens and Now I'm Trapped in Rom-Com was for Rita 2025 release by a BIPOC author. And Never Let Me Go was for read literary fiction by a BIPOC LGBTQ and or disabled author. Obviously, Kazure Sugo is Japanese. He's British Japanese, but he's Japanese, so he falls under BIPOC. Um, and The Verifiers is for read a queer mystery. And then Same-Sex Unions in Pre-Modern Europe is my nonfiction challenge book of the month. All right. Okay, finally done. I do want to do more video posts for the blog. I want to do, so I mentioned this in my last blog post, I think, that I said I was going to have some videos coming up. I do want to do, obviously, we've got, um, I have a project. I think I think I'll just reveal it. I want to do a video on reading tech because obviously if I'm trying to get CompTIA A plus certified, I'm a techie. I'm a geek. I have STEM degree. I have 2 STEM degrees. I have 2 STEM degrees. So I figure you would think, yeah. So I want to do a video on reading all the reading tech that I have, which is like my little, like my evening. And I also want to do a fic binding video, show off all the fics, the fanfic that I've bound into physical readable books. So anyway, I'm gonna go convert this video because OBS records it as an MKV and I don't know why. And upload it. And yeah, all right.